Hey everyone, Dave here from the Photography Toolkit, and today we're going to be doing the Macro Extension Tube Challenge. So what are extension tubes? How do they work? What can you do with them? Well, normally when I would do macro photography, I would use a macro lens, but not everyone can afford a macro lens, and an extension tube is another option that you can use. So extension tubes, what are they? Well, basically they're tubes that you put in between your camera and the lens, and they extend the plane of focus. So they actually allow you to focus closer than you normally would be able to focus. So they're a great option, they're a lightweight option, and they're a cheaper option than a macro lens. So I'm going to be using the Nikon D5600 today, and I'm going to be using a 18-140 lens. And when you have these set of extension tubes, I've got a set of 3 from Kenko. They are autofocus. And you can use them as a set of 3, you can use them individually, combine them, stack them however you wish, play around with them, and they'll give you different magnification based on how you use them. You do have to have and explore and test out how they work with the lens that you're using. So for example, with this 18-140 lens, around 70-140 will give me a distance that I can actually focus. If I'm using all 3 extension tubes and at 18 millimeters, I'm not going to be able to focus on my subject. It won't work. The other thing about extension tubes is that you can't actually focus at things in the distance. So you have to use them for macro. You have to take them off for your lens to work normally again. I'm going to be comparing these shots. I also have a 60 millimeter Nikon macro lens, and I'm going to be trying to compare and see how they work and see how that goes. But let's have some fun and let's give it a shot. One of the things you might assume is that at the longer focal length, like the 140 millimeter focal length, you're going to get the most magnification. That's not necessarily true. So I'm going to try to do an example here. I'm going to see how close I can focus. I'm blocking it almost there. That's at 140 millimeters. Let's see if I go back a bit. Well, you know, it's about the same there. That's at about 70. I had to pull off the focus a bit. So it will take some getting used to. One of the things that I've noticed actually that it can help with focusing is just using the zoomed focus as opposed to the focus ring, and that makes it a little bit easier. But this is the type of subject that is just great for macro photography. It is a bit harder to back off, but see how much I can do it. Yeah, that's about as far back as I can get right there. But it's still quite magnified, so I can't sort of get this whole area in here. But it works quite well. Okay, now let's try the 60 millimeter macro. Now, the focus on this is just pin sharp. That is so fast. That's already one of the things I love. I can back off a bit and get some of these details. Let's see how close we can get here. I'm definitely getting in close that I could with the other lens, the same sort of magnification with the other lens. But again, this is a more expensive lens. So I definitely can do it, but the focus is a lot easier. That's the first thing I'm really recognizing. The focus here is a lot easier than with the extension tubes, but I'm getting some similar images. See how close I can get to get some of this texture in this beautiful, beautiful, I don't even know what this is, a seed of some sort? Now you don't always have to get close. Again, I could sort of take it in and then look for the details or look for the parts in there that I like. I'm gonna take this hood off again and see how close I can get because I don't want it to create a shadow. So right now I'm playing with both the zoom and the focus ring. So I'm manually focusing, but I'm really creating a shadow now as I get really close. I might have to change my angle a bit, but it's pretty good. I'm amazed actually. Okay, serious macro challenge. I don't know if you can see these. They're just tiny. Okay, very, very small. Let's just see what we can do with both these options. I get close, but I lose a lot of that light. So that does make it hard. The background is definitely a lot blurrier with this. Now I know what you want me to try, because I want to try it too. Let's try those extension tubes with the macro lens. Let's see what we can do. Okay. I'm definitely able to get a lot closer. It's amazing how close I can get with these. Extremely shallow depth of field. I might increase that a bit. And these things are tiny. It's amazing. Okay, this one right here. Look how tiny it is. Let's see the result. It was impressive. Okay, autofocus now. And he's trying to drink. That's kind of cool, actually. Let's see if I can get this. There we go. Okay. I didn't quite get it. Okay, I think I got him. Oh, this is incredible. It's like he's looking right at me. Again, zooming back a bit gives me what I'm looking for. Now I'm just gonna go down a bit to get that sort of color of the sidewalk in the background. Even though it's blurred out. So I could take a picture that way and then go up and get the green in the background. It's just ever so slight difference. And I just lost the drop of water. Different background. Let's try this with the macro lens. Trying different apertures actually here. This is what I love about macro. This is just bottle here, but look at these, all these drops in here. I think that's gonna be so cool. Now, I might vary what I have in the background. Maybe some of that yellow in the background there. Maybe some of the top of the bottle cap. Honestly, this is why you want a macro lens. Looking for things like this. It's just so cool. Okay, let's try with the other lens here. Want more depth of field with this compared to the other lens. Watch the different backgrounds. Bit of movement, so I gotta be careful. Let's try getting it a bit closer. Same thing with the macro. in continuous focus, it makes it really easy. Okay, lots of movement. This might not be possible. Macro lens with extension tubes. Trying to get some drops of water in here. Flowers are always such a great subject, and with these water drops on here, I just love it. See how close we can get. There's an ant in there. Some sort of bug in there. It's too far away from me really to see. I wonder what I can do. See how close we can get these water drops. Sometimes the back side of the flower is just as interesting. So let's get some details in here. Ant in there. It's quite small, so it doesn't appear very big, but maybe the details in here. See how close we can get. Almost touching this. That's how close I have to be. Just trying to get the details in here. The reflection, the rust. Okay, the background between those two shots is different. So shooting through here, it'll give me a green. So my reflection on the extension tube challenge. I think extension tubes have a place in everyone's bag. Macro photography is so wonderful. It's such a great thing to be able to get in close and see a world that you actually don't see, and capture images of things that you just don't see otherwise. So I highly recommend macro photography, and I highly recommend extension tubes. Now, I generally use all three tubes together. I did try using the single tubes to try to lessen the magnification to make it work for my subject, but generally I was at full magnification, fully extended all three tubes. But that meant with my lens that I could really only use the 70 to 140 range. Below that, I just couldn't focus. When I used one of the smallest extension tubes, I was able to focus down maybe to 35 millimeters and get some things in focus, but it's just something to be aware of, that it is a bit more fiddly to play around with. But again, they're inexpensive, so I think it's a good option to get into them, using them for macro photography. Now, I really appreciated having the lens there as well, so I could compare between the two, and it made me appreciate the lens because it was really zippy and fast. I could focus, I could recompose, while with the extension tubes was a lot slower, and I'd have to maybe take a tube off or try something, or and the macro lens was just really quick. But again, it's something light that you can carry with you, and that's really useful and inexpensive. So I think they're a nice option. I really did enjoy actually using the extension tubes with the macro lens as well, because then I could get even closer, and that was really cool. I generally, for that, I use manual focus, because then I could just move myself closer and further away, and that seemed to work quite well. You will lose some of your aperture with whichever lens you're using. Your aperture will get smaller. That's just the way it is, but it was a lot of fun. Just looking at the back of the camera, I noticed that some of the colors may be a little bit less saturated with the extension tubes, but we'll see what those results are afterwards. Anyway, I recommend extension tubes. Great for macro photography. Give it a shot.